right? You're grade 12. Try my best here to go above and beyond just a regular question. I don't know if you've noticed that, right? Because the question is just a starting point. It's like a conversation starter. Yeah, Adrian, you're there? Okay. Angelito, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll still mark. I have to mark you absent, but I do on my own record make sure you're here, like you're remote, you joined remotely. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Vehicle finance. Choose a letter that best completes the statement below. One cost caps would pay when purchasing a new car. Okay. Should I highlight? Yes, I will highlight. That he would not have to pay when purchasing a used car privately is one cost. Like, we have to read that carefully, right? One cost that a CAPS would pay when purchasing a new vehicle that he would not pay when he's purchasing a used car privately is GST, right? Because when you buy new, yes, Ramandeep, you raised your hand. I can't. Oh, yes. Sorry about that, guys. I wasn't presenting. Thank you, Ramandeep. Why is it not telling me? Like, usually when you raise your hand, it gives me a little chime here. But yeah, I noticed that. Thank you, guys. Yeah, Chastity, it should work now, right? Give it 1 second. It says you're presenting. It's good now? Oh man, I can't wait for regular classes. Back to normal. Okay. New car, you pay PST and GST, right? You pay both of them. When it's used private, that's the key word here. Used private, if you put down PST, GST like this, you don't pay that, okay? And I will make a thing, you used dealer, right? You pay both PST, GST, no matter if it's used or, like if it's a dealership, you pay both as well, okay? So GST is only 5%. Sorry. It must be, I thought it must be Friday. No, it's Thursday, but I'm making mistakes as if it were Friday, okay? If it's private, you don't pay GST. You only pay the 7%. Please correct that. And this is always at the on your formula sheet, so you don't have to guess, right? Your formula sheet at the back of each booklet at the back has a formula sheet. You can go check it out there. So the answer is B. So the wording is very critical, right? If you didn't read it carefully, you might, right? So there it is. Next question. 15, and that's a 4 marker. So this page is a heavy hitter, I call them, right? Question 15 is a heavy hitter. So Melanie purchased a van for $8,000 after taxes. That means that it's including tax, right? She made a down payment, right? There's a down payment of $1,500. And it is financing the remaining balance, right? So you're doing payments on the rest. Okay. Calculate the total amount she will have to finance. This is fairly simple. Finance or loan, right, would be 8,000 minus 1,500. And you get 6,500 out of that. Make sure you put a $sign or else I would have to take off half. That's it, 1 mark right there. I think you can handle that, right? Right, and then it says, the bank offers Melanie an annual interest rate of 7% over 5 years. We know that this is going to be important to us, right? 7% over 5 years to finance the van. Calculate the amount of interest Melanie will have to pay on the first month's payment. So this is where students mix it up quite often. First month payment, right? Interest, in this case, this is first month only. I will put this down, first month. And I'm running out of room there. So I'm going to start, I'm going to just put it underneath it. Would be loan times rate divided by 100, and you divide that by 12. And that is the interest rate, right? That's not from the table, not the table rate. I'll put down here total interest. This is the one we always mix up. This one and this one, you mix up parts of one and put it in the other. Total interest would be payment times 12 times years minus the loan. Okay, so these are, and it's exactly the same for home finance. Okay, so these two you should have on your study sheet, and don't mix them up. Okay. And maybe I will take a moment here and to tell you that to calculate the payment, right? We take the loan, we multiply it by, this is the one that you divide by 1,000. This is a table rate. Loan times table rate divided by 1,000. That's to calculate the payment if they asked you. That you would need a table for that. Same, like this exact the same for a mortgage. Exactly the same. Okay. So to calculate the first month's interest, we're just going to go 6,500 times, it's basically 7 divided by 100, right? Whatever that interest rate is divided by 100, and then that divided by 12. Kind of not staying where it's supposed to be. I'm just thinking of you guys. You probably want me to turn off the front row, right? Is that better? Probably zoom in a little bit. There, I'm going to keep it there for a bit so you can catch up. So write these boxed in ones. You can have those under vehicle finance. The only thing that changes for a house, home finance, is that this would be called a mortgage, right? Loan, when it comes to a house, it's called a mortgage, right? Okay, so here we go. I will write this one more time, 6,500 times 0.07 divided by 12. And this is the exact same thing you would do on a table as well to calculate your interest. And this would be 37,916, and it keeps going, right? So that would round to 92. That's the answer, or the official answer to this question. And they do 2 marks on that one. I think they give you 1 mark if you forget to divide by 12. and you get the full 2 marks if you do divide by 12. Okay. Next, state one way, right? State one way. That just means you don't have to explain really. You just have to say how could it be done. Melanie could reduce the monthly payment for her van. Right? You want to reduce the monthly payment. There's a couple of ways. Increase down payment. Right? Increase down payment. You can increase the amortization period. Basically take longer. Take longer to pay off the loan. I gave more than one, but one would be enough, right? And I think it's safe to say that you could shop for a lower interest rate, right? That would reduce it by a little bit as well. But I'm just gonna keep it at 2. And you gotta be very careful, right? Like reduce what? The monthly payment, not reduce the interest that you're paying, because then this would not be a good idea to increase your amortization period, right? And so keep that in mind. Next page. Question 16, and remember, if I go a little bit fast, you can always look it up later on. Watch it at a higher speed, right? Just to go quickly through it. When you're using your desktop, you can actually increase the speed that you watch a video, right? You can go 1.5 times, right, to just go over it quickly. Question 16, Maya is purchasing a used car. There it is, what we've been waiting for. So used versus new and dealer versus private, those are words that should stick out. It's a used car at a dealership for $3,500 before taxes. So this is not including taxes. The trade-in value of her old vehicle is $500. It's probably a rusty but trusty car, right? That's what I call the old cars. Gets you from A to B, but it's now time to upgrade, right? Calculate the total amount Maya will pay for her car after taxes. So they want the taxes included there. Total amount after taxes. Those are the important words there. And I will remind you that used, right? The price of a used car, in this case, let's just call it's a used scenario, right? But it's at a dealer, right? That means 12% tax. Okay? You're gonna have to pay both PST and GST. So total would be 3,500 minus the trade-in, and that gets taxed 12%. Okay, so it is really 3,000 times 1.12. And the key here is to take the trade-in off before you put taxes on that. That's a benefit of a trade-in versus cash. I'll make a note, right? Trade-in subtracted before taxes. That is huge, right? The trade-in is always subtracted before taxes. If it's cash, like if you have 500 down, then you would take it off after. Okay. Take a little longer for folks at home. I'm still looking for a used car private. Like that's an example that I'm looking for yet. And I don't know if it's around the corner. I don't remember the questions, right? I just grab random booklets every year. And sometimes exams are harder than other years, that we have noticed that as well. So okay. Henry is a long distance driver, delivery driver in Manitoba who needs a new vehicle. He often drives on gravel roads that damage his car. Explain, right? There's a different word there. Explain one reason why Henry should purchase a new vehicle instead of leasing. Okay, so why should he buy a new vehicle versus leasing, right? So these are some options, or the main option here is based on what you just read. Gravel may damage the car, right? The gravel bounces off. I don't know if you've ever driven on gravel roads. I'm sure you have. You can hear the gravel bouncing off your car all the time, right? So if you were to lease it and then return it, they would charge you extra for excessive wear and tear. Okay, so he should buy a new one because he may be charged extra for damages if he were to lease. And I probably worded it longer than what it should, but whatever you need to do to make your point, you do it, right? You should buy a new one because he may be charged extra for damages if he were to lease. Okay. Another thing you can say, I was honing in on the gravel road here, but if you read it again, it's a long distance delivery driver. What does that mean? You're going to put in a lot of miles on your vehicle, right? So you could say better to buy new, comma, since leasing has a restriction on kilometers driven, right? You may be charged extra for mileage, right? And you can say mileage charge. So you're basically justifying why buying a new one is better than leasing, right? So that's what needs to be reflected. And so this one is making note of the fact that he's a long distance delivery driver. This one is honing in on the gravel chipping off the paint on your vehicle, right? Both of these, either one of these would be acceptable. Another way of saying is since he's a long distance delivery driver, he will be accumulating a lot of kilometers. Therefore, leasing is not a good option because he might be charged extra for mileage above restriction or allowed, going up past the allowed kilometers, anything like that. I'm not picky with grammar or sentence structure as long as it's sound, right? As long as you're making sense. And this goes back to vehicle finance. We had charts, right? Talking about the benefits, the advantages and disadvantages of buying versus leasing, right? So they make some good questions that really test you, right? It's and give you a scenario and how can you use those pros and cons in this scenario, right? Okay. Question 18. The distance from the paw to Calgary is 1,074 kilometers. Lloyd's scooter has a fuel economy, there's that word, of 1.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Calculate the amount of fuel used if Lloyd drives a scooter from the paw to Calgary. Okay, fuel economy is given. I use that as my starting point, right? So if you're asking if 1.9 liters are used to drive 100 kilometers with that scooter, which is very good, that is very, like 2 liters for, not even 2 liters for 100 kilometers. Then you're asking yourself, right? If you were to drive this distance, right? How many liters would you need? X liters, right? And you start on your side where the variable is. You cross multiply and you divide. Always multiply then divide. That's the rule here. So it's 1174 times 1.9 divided by 100. 22.306, which is 22.31 liters. They could have, these questions usually have a B part where it's like, well, if gas is this much, how much would you pay for that trip, right? They didn't have it in this case, but quite often that is the case. Yes, there is a used private. It's coming up. It's coming up. Okay. 19. Shauna is at an insurance agency there, to renew her car insurance. Every year, right, you have to make sure you pay your car insurance policy, or every couple of years, it depends. Describe 2 changes that she could make to lower the total cost of her insurance. Place 1 response per line. I want to say, I think this one I vaguely remember, but you cannot change the car you're driving. Okay, folks, like you are at the insurance agency, you're in the agency, you're in there and you're trying to find ways to save money. And so getting a cheaper car was not accepted here. Okay, so you kind of have to see what are the circumstances you're in. Okay, so one thing could be is you want to lower the total cost of insurance so you can increase your or increase your deductible, right? From 200 to 500, right? I think if you just said increase your deductible, you get the marks already. You could lower the third party liability. You could lower the third party liability. And that was like, you know, from 3 million down to 1 million. I think we had like 3 options there. You go back there, you can review that. What could be another thing you can do? You can't out of nowhere improve your driving record, right? You can't do that when you're at the agency. It's like, oh, I'm gonna drive better next year, I promise. Like, no, that won't work, right? I'm thinking what else could be. Deductible, third-party liability. Oh, the loss of use. Oh yeah, this one here. Change from all-purpose to leisure. Okay, so if you or to layaway or something, because they're not saying that, right? It's not saying that she needs it every day, right? If it said Shauna needs it every day to go to work, this would be out the window. You couldn't use this one. But you go from all-purpose to leisure. Leisure limits the amount of kilometers you can drive, and you can only drive it so many days a week or month or something like that. Those details don't really matter. And the other one is decline the loss of use option. You know that you have that, like that's an option. If you were to get in a car accident and you have loss of use, they give you a rental unit for as long as it takes to fix your car. And that costs extra, right? And I'm sure there are more. I'm just right now not sure what else I can say. So I give you 4 though, right? And that's plenty. All right. 20. Surge needs to pay the following repairs on the vehicle. The province likes charts, so from time to time you're going to get charts. Calculate the total labor cost before taxes. I'm going to highlight that. Total cost of labor before taxes if the service center charges $110 per hour. Okay, so they just want the labor cost. So we take labor, it's like 0.5 of an hour plus 2.5 of an hour. That's 3 hours, right? So 3 hours times 110 per hour, right, that they're charging. And that would be $330 per labor. No taxes, right? Taxes on parts and labor, by the way, parts and labor is always 12%. You pay both taxes on it. And if you're not sure, go to the back, check your formula sheet. It'll be there. It'll say PST and GST for it. But they want before taxes, okay? So don't add tax here. B, calculate the total amount Search will pay to the service center after taxes. So total amount after taxes, 2 marks, right? So we'll go total is 207 plus 600 I'm just adding the parts, right? Muffler, transmission is here, plus I just calculated the labor, right? So this would be your parts, and this is labor here. Okay, so we're gonna add that up. 330 plus 807, that's 1037 times 1.12. Make sure you show the intermediate steps in case you make a mistake. If you went from here straight to there, you'd probably lose a full mark if you get it wrong, okay? So if you show that you've added this there and then you go times 1.12, you still get 1.5. So just so you know, I'm making playlists with the different booklet names. So for example, I'll do home finance of the other booklets and then just add it to that folder or playlist later, so that you should have all 3 units per playlist if you want it. Just gonna wait a little bit for folks at home. So the word before and after tax is very, very important. Always read carefully, right? I had some students total, when they saw the word total, they just did everything here, like just like add it all up, and they basically had this answer over here. It's like, no, just read, right? And you should be fine. By the way, the test you're writing doesn't have as much space, okay? So it won't be this spacious. Just so you're like, not that you need the space, but some of you might want to just get mentally prepared for that. 21, question 21 on page 21. Okay, Chris purchases a snowmobile for 11,500. The snowmobile depreciates. Remember that depreciation, right? So price of car depreciates 15% per year, right? Calculate the amount of depreciation, right, for the first year. They want to know how much has it lost. They don't want the depreciated value. They want just the amount of depreciation, right? How much did it lose? That's all I'm going to say here. Okay. And so we go, this is just first year, so we're just going to have to go 11,500 times 0.15. That is 1,725. That's it. Never add taxes to a depreciation question, okay? It's not even, they don't even put it there right before or after taxes. Like, you're not expected to add taxes to depreciation. It's just looking at the value you lost based on the original price. So sometimes they do 2 years. This time it was just 1 year. Easy as that. And now, so they made one, normally what I asked you just on one question, they made it in 2, right? Into A and B. Calculate the value, right? The value of the snowmobile at the end of the first year. Okay, so that's where we just go 11,500 minus what you've lost. So remember, we would take this away from the total to calculate the depreciation for the second year. You're doing that here. and that's $9,775. That's there. Maybe I'll say this, the value, this is the depreciated value. All right, next page. Odette is purchasing a used vehicle privately. There it is. Used private, right, sale. She has some additional costs to pay, so $40 for a safety, remember that, and $15 for a lien search. Calculate the total, right? You want the total for these additional costs after taxes. They never mention the price of the vehicle at all. I will just give you the formula one more time. I hope I get it right. If it's used privately, this is in general the formula that you would, okay, price of the vehicle, actual purchase price plus book or price, whichever one is greater, times 0.07 plus safety times 1.05. Oh, I'm going to run out of room here. Plus, I'm just going to continue down here. Lien, there's no taxes on that. Plus parts and labor times 1.12. Like this is everything they can possibly throw at you at once. Right? So it's a very long formula, but I've never seen a question where everything is thrown at you. You would have done something like this on a test back then, but you don't have to think that everything is going to be thrown at you, but you can just cancel out the things that are not mentioned, and then you're left with the rest, right? So in this case, the only thing that is mentioned is the safety, right, which is $40. We're going to multiply that by 1.05. And the lien search doesn't get taxed, right? So, right, safety gets taxed 5%, lien no tax. I'll just say no tax on lien, right? 5% on safety. So you go figure that out. That's $42 plus 15, and that is 57. That's it. So again, right, there's no price of the car, no book value, nothing. So cancel this out. So basically left with safety and lien. Everything else is gone, right? So then you get your 57 bucks there. And they're just honing in on the additional costs, right? And I would box this in because this should be under vehicle finance for sure. Yep, fine. Okay. Is that it? Or is there more? No. The next is geometry. So we're We're done with vehicle finance. Now we're going to go back to home finance at the very beginning of this book. Okay. So tomorrow is your day, guys. If I don't get, I most likely won't get through the other home finance sections. I will post the answer key to everything so you can look. It's a pretty thick PDF. So the nice thing is they also have exemplars in there where students have tried to answer it, and it shows you whether or not they got it right and why they lost marks. Okay, so let's go all the way to the front of this booklet. To home finance. All the way to the front. And let's make it through home finance before we make it to the end. Make sure you have your study sheets, your calculators, pencils, everything you need ready to go for tomorrow, okay? Bring the charts, the pink charts for home finance. So question 1 here. So Tram's home has an assessed value. That should ring a bell. Assessed value. What is it from again? That would have been a property tax question. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that. Assessed value of 430,000. Calculate the total portioned assessment for the property if portioned assessment is 45%. Remember I told you that they only tax you on 45% of your home? That's all you're supposed to do there. So you go 430,000 times 0.45. And they give you that. They always give you the 45%, so you don't have to like memorize that. So that's 193, because remember, this is what your tax, the portioned assessment is this here. So 193,500. Next, the mill rate for the municipal tax is 24 mills on the portioned assessment. Calculate the municipal tax. This should be a home run for you, right? You take the 193,500, you multiply by 24, but always divide it by 1,000. And you should have the formula. I gave you the full formula for property taxes again, if they were to throw everything at you, right? And you get 193,500 times 24 divided by 1,000. If you want to see your test tomorrow before we start, okay, you got to come even earlier than 8:30 is the official time that we can start over there. If you can either come by today, like whichever group comes in the afternoon, if you want to swing by, get your test, and tomorrow I will try to hand it out quickly before you start writing, okay? So we did the municipal tax there. It says, in addition to municipal tax, there's an education tax of 3870, right? They already give you that number. And a tax credit of 700 bucks. Calculate the total amount of property taxes paid, right? So you would have to take the 4644, right, from B. You add the education tax, which you did not calculate, they gave it to you, and you take away the credit. There are no improvements, nothing like that in this case. So that's 7814 that you would be paying. That's a lot, right? But that house is worth a lot too. Right? So that's the answer there. So remember, property tax, right? You go portioned assessment times mill rate divided by 1,000, right? So that could be in education, right? There's education, municipal, improvement, right? You add all these and then you go minus credit to get to your final. A lot of you added the credit or something on your test, right? So you got it wrong there. Okay. Question 2. George is considering purchasing a home. He earns a gross income of 44,400 annually. Income of 44,000, and I'm going to highlight the annually as well. Monthly heating is 140. Monthly property taxes is 200. And the monthly mortgage amount is 940. You know where this is going, right? Calculate the GDSR. So GDSR, and that formula is also on your formula sheet, but it's mortgage plus tax plus heating divided by income, all of that times 100. So the GDSR, by the way, is a percentage, right? It's always up as a percentage, your final answer. All entries must be monthly amounts. If you don't have them all in monthly amounts, you're not going to get the right answer. And that happened quite often on the test. Okay, so the first order of business here is income per month, right? You're going to take that and divide it by 12. And you get 3,700 per month. That'd be the first order of business here. Now everything else is on a monthly amount. So now we can calculate the GDSR. The mortgage is 940. The taxes would be 200 and the heating is 140. And remember that these three are considered housing costs. All of that divided by 3,700. Make sure you put brackets on the top if you are brave enough to type this all in one shot, which I would not recommend. So I would add up the top, which is 1280 over 3,700 times 100. And now you go and multiply away or multiply and divide. That's 34.59%. They don't ask you, but would not be approved, right? And that was done overall very well, since GDSR is greater than 32%. That's just in case they ask, right? I'm gonna leave it there for a bit, write it down. Yeah. No, you can keep them. So if you come at 8:30 and you want to get your test back before that, right? you would have to come and see me here in my room. That just means I have to make sure I'm here. I'll try to be here 8:15. Okay, so you have to come here, pick it up, and then very close to 8:30, I'm heading down there already. So, and it needs to be put away right when you get to the cafeteria. Okay, sorry, I'm a little faster than I probably would want to, but I need to make sure I make it through this booklet at least, right? Sam is moving out. She must pick between the following two options. So home purchase, square feet, right? That's the size of the house. It's a $1,400 monthly mortgage payment. Apartment, same size, same rent, right? Same amount for the mortgage and the rent. Explain one possible advantage of purchasing the house, right? One possible, right? You can say you build equity. That's a big one. A lot of you did that, right? It's considered an asset, right? And it's actually an appreciating asset, right? A car is also an asset, but it actually depreciates over time. And what else did I put down? You should have, this should be fresh for you. You may renovate at will, right? More privacy, payments stay relatively the same, yada, 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 right? These ones you should have anyways on your study sheet. Explain one possible advantage of renting the apartment. Lower maintenance cost. Lower startup cost. You don't pay property taxes. And please say utilities may be included. Utilities are usually included, okay? But don't say they're always, you don't have to worry about them, because sometimes you do have to pay some heat and some water. It depends on what building you're in, okay? You can also say in A, your mortgage payment eventually stops, right? Like over here, eventually you have it paid off and you stop. You may rent out a room or the basement for extra income and stuff like that. All right, moving on. Let's do some math here. I still want to get to the land transfer tax there. Jingwei is purchasing a home for $310,000, makes a down payment of 5%. Okay, they don't mention the actual amount, and she will finance the mortgage over 25 years. Calculate the amount borrowed for the mortgage. Okay, how much are you borrowing? So first of all, you need to calculate the down. How much is down, right? And it's 5%. There was disagreement on this one. I remember why this was only given 1 mark, but right? So 15,500 is the down payment. So borrowed or financed, right, is 310 minus 15,500. And that's 294,500. Circle your final answer. So first you have to find the down payment, then calculate how much was borrowed, right? Calculate the monthly mortgage payment if it costs $526 per month for each $1,000. This is normally given in the table, okay? Normally, this is the number you would be getting from the table, this one right here. And it is always for each $1,000 you borrow. So in this case, to get your payment, you take how much you borrow and you multiply by 5.26 divided by 1,000. And that's this much per month. C, calculate the the cost of financing interest paid on the 25-year mortgage. So this is total interest. This is the total, right? You go payment times 12 times years minus amount you borrowed or the loan or the mortgage, right? So you would go 1549.07 times 12. It's always times 12 times, in this case, it's 25 years minus you borrowed this. You always want to have the amount borrowed here that you subtract at the end, because this is total paid to the bank minus how much you borrowed in the first place. And so you get 464,721 minus 294,500, and that is 170,221. That's the total interest you paid. So maybe just write down the answers for now. If I'm going a little bit too fast, make sure you have the answers, so you can at least try this. And so I will post for sure the answer key for 2019, which is one that I gave out yesterday. If you're coming by this afternoon and you want a paper copy, you can pick it up. I'll be right here. Let's do this one quickly here. Question 5, which one of the following costs is an ongoing cost? Moving expenses, lawyer, no. Land transfer tax, no. Property tax, that's ongoing. All these you just pay once when you move and buy the house, right? So D is the answer there. 6, is that the last one? Second last. This one, I'll tell you something about this question. They put that huge chart here, and you had those boxes here. You don't have to fill in this box. Like, you can always do land transfer tax the way I showed it to you. Okay? So Steve is purchasing a property at $230,000 as shown in the chart. He has found that for the first $150,000, the land transfer tax will be $900. So he's basically already partially done the work for you. The land transfer tax is calculated as follows. So there it is, right? So calculate the land transfer tax due on the next 50,000. So on the next 50,000, they want to know how much you would pay. And it would really be 50,000 times 1.5%, which is 0.015 as a decimal. And that's $750. Okay, so this number here, if you were to do the math, some of you got like, I don't know if you didn't divide by 100, you got like 3,000, 6,000, and so forth. So you got to double check that. So that's what the answer is for A, just 750. Calculate the land transfer tax due on the amounts in excess of 200,000. So anything above 200,000 you pay 2% on, right? So really 230,000 minus 200,000. There's an excess of 30,000 here. Okay? And so on that you pay 2% on, which is 600 bucks. That's all. You didn't have to even do the total, right? Because normally we learned, right, to add up all of these amounts here to get your total land transfer tax, which they could have done. They could have done that, but they didn't. Okay. Last one. Sven owns a home. Sven did not move, but in 2017 his house insurance premiums were $100 less than his 2016 premiums. Describe one possible reason why Sven's premiums were lower in 2017. Right? You could say he was claim free, right? He didn't make a claim. He installed an alarm system, right? If you get an alarm system, your premiums will drop. He installed an alarm system and got a discount, right? What else? His credit rating went up or improved. His credit rating improved, so that's why he got a discount. Anybody else? Anyone with a good one? Oh, yes. He increased his deductible. Of course, right? Like things you can do, right? He increases deductible. He switched from comprehensive to standard. Yeah, and the list goes on. We did not do an insurance question. For the most part, it was done very well. Make sure you review how to do insurance, tenant and home insurance. I'll just stop this before